All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Aravaipa Rides podcast. This is our part 2 with a gentleman from OHSO Brewery. I've got Cale and Brody. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I know we had a time constraint last time around, and we were going full steam with whatever it was we were talking about at the time, subject matter-wise, and just felt that there was more to discuss between the both of us, and it's great because it's kind of cool that we're not necessarily talking mountain bikes again, and hopefully the listeners and the viewers will enjoy talking some beer. They certainly enjoy drinking it when they come to the races.
I know that, and it's a holiday season.
It is a holiday season. Yeah. Yep. So we're going to do part 2 here. We're going to be talking more beer, maybe a little mountain biking thrown in or something like that. So I've given you the warning. I guess I don't want to say it, but maybe tune out if beer's not your thing. No, stay with us.
Learn something at least.
There we go.
Yeah.
Brody, you did bring something here along. Why don't we talk about just what you have that you brought with you today that I'm sampling, at least?
Yeah, we got our newest seltzer flavor. We did a lavender limoncello. So, it's super nice and refreshing and just kind of an easy drinking seltzer. We've been doing a lot of fun kind of exploratory flavors with some of our seltzer line. We have our core 3 flavors that are kind of more distributed and available all the time: watermelon lemonade, Pog, which is the passion fruit orange guava, and then our tropical lime, which is like a lime with a little bit of a passion fruit and kind of tropical twist. But we just did this lavender limoncello. We just did a spicy banana.
Yeah, dude, that was wild.
Kind of
that was a seltzer?
It was a sleeper for a lot of people. Yeah, we did a spicy banana seltzer.
I'm not gonna lie, I saw it. I go, this is garbage. Like nothing about it. But it's just weird how your palate like kind of chops up. Like it was straight banana. It was nice. It wasn't overpowering by any means. And then that spice just kind of tapered in. Like after you like have a drink and you're sitting there and you're like, I don't get the spice, and then it like shows up. You're like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, pretty much everyone was like, I went into this expecting to hate it, and I kind of like this. I don't know what to think, but it was like banana jalapeno, and then
interesting. Yeah,
we've been doing a lot of. We did a prickly pear, tangerine. We've done.
You had a name for that one.
Ginger pear. Prickly pear tangerine with pee-pee tang. It was the pee-pee tang. Ginger or
what was ginger pear?
Ginger pear. Yeah, we've been doing a bunch of fun stuff throughout the winter. So,
and these have been released, actually.
Yeah, we've just been putting them out.
Yeah,
we've been in the seltzer game for maybe a year and a half now. So we're kind of like exploring what our flagship identity is going to be. So some of these flavors might become more of a mainstay, and as we kind of move into our next stage of expanding our production, which is happening currently with the whole Helton expansion. So, we're kind of like, before we really blow it up, we're trying to reassess, make sure we have all of our flavors that we want to be kind of our cores. So, yeah, it's been fun just trying out all these new combinations of fun flavors, and people have been liking them, so that's always good.
Good. And they're available at most of the stores?
Yeah, if you go to any OHSO, they're available there. You can drink them on premise.
Except for Franklin, right?
You can still drink them on premise at Frank. They still
buy them to go. I mean,
you just can't take them to go at Frank, but all the other locations you can
Sure.
drink them there or take them to go as well. So little cheat code for that: never buy a single can. The way it's priced is
it's like $5 a can.
It's like six. It's $6 for one or $13 for 6. So
there's some math.
Just
there.
get the 6-pack.
Yeah,
get the 6-pack.
If it's 5 gifts, it's 5 gifts. Right? If you only want the one, buy the 6.
Buy 2, get 4 free, basically.
There you go.
It's just priced that way because if people want a single can to drink at the restaurant, it has to be you can't be like $1. So that's why it's like that. But yeah, just go for the 6-pack and let us know what you think.
Very cool. I do want to get some business out of the way too, because I think we kind of skipped over some of the business part last time. Went just right into the fun. But let's just talk about, or you guys can talk about, just the different locations that we have. You got a couple that are sort of in the works as well, and like what's different about them. What can people expect if they go to Frank Lloyd versus Paradise Valley versus Arcadia?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I got my business attire on, so
Yeah,
let's make sure
let's
make sure we
Let's
hit the
get
business portion.
the
Yeah.
zip up.
So, original location is in Arcadia. That just, we still have our 1.5 barrel system over there that we do guest brews on. People sign up. We get, charitable groups. We get schools in there, and they just brew on that little system.
Right.
It's kind of like a glorified homebrew system. So people come in, people who want to upscale a homebrew or who have no idea about brewing. We do a lot of beer classes, stuff like that over there. So I think that's kind of like our education center is
Cool.
that one, because it's where we started. There's a lot of passion into that store, and we have a smaller system where Brody works. He has a 10-barrel system, so he's making 20 big full-size kegs in one batch.
Right.
If you are experimenting, that's kind of a dangerous experiment in
Sure.
a sense.
Yep. And that's Gilbert.
Yeah, so Brett, Brett, has a little smaller thing, but then if he has a good recipe, we upscale it and we'll have Brody make it or something like that. So
Nice.
and then Gilbert.
Yeah, Gilbert. It's the 4th location for OHSO to open. That's where I'm primarily located at. It's our largest location. It's kind of become our marquee location just due to the size of it. It's over 30,000 square foot facility at this stage, and we're actually expanding. Currently, we just went into terms on an adjacent property that we are in the process of starting to open, so it's even going to be bigger. But currently, huge indoor area, even bigger outdoor.
Yeah, the patio is fantastic. over
Patio.
there.
The park is the newest addition to open, which is a big container park outdoor area where it's dog friendly, it's kid friendly, it's family friendly. They have an arcade, they have a big screen jumbotron where they play all the recent sporting events. They do live music on the weekends. Movie nights. It's like a really fun place to go. You can just plop a chair down on the lawn. It's all kind of a turf, grassy.
It's kind of a
area.
Awesome place to end like a gravel ride, I think.
Yeah,
See how I did it,
right? Yeah, you could just hop off the canal, and it's right there. So, good place to cruise over to if you're in the East Valley. And yeah, it's really become one of our really a flagship marquee kind of spots. So
yeah, downtown Gilbert's Old Town Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Just a little more family friendly.
Yep.
It was centered around that, and every business who's been in is a lot catered towards that. So it is
Nice.
It's cool that way. And then Frank Lloyd Wright, which we mentioned before, that's our distillery. So we have spirits that we make, vodka, gin, rum, agave spirit, or tequila, but we're not in Mexico. We're close, but not fully there. And then bourbon, flavored whiskey. We have flavored vodkas is our Arcadia line.
Yep.
And they do some experimental stuff over there as well. One of our most popular ones, which we haven't done again, but because we're small, we did we barrel aged rum in a whiskey barrel. We called it Risky, and it was really popular because the sweetness of the rum was nice, but then you got kind of that, that some of that bourbon flavor kind of carried over. So it was pretty cool. So again, not a huge operation, but we're able to play around and have fun with that. So all of our spirits that are served at all of our stores comes out of that one specific store.
Okay.
And then Paradise Valley, which is where my old stomping grounds were, used to be that used to be an old nursery, that whole property.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's why it was kind of big outdoor.
There. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's currently our production site. That'll change soon, but 9,000 square foot patio, I think, outside, and then it just goes restaurant inside, and then even more the big production breweries kind of in the back. I mean, all of our stuff, it's not, closed curtains. If someone was interested, we have glasses to put on for safety, and and all that stuff. But like, we love to show people who are interested, I mean, yeah, they're big shiny tanks, but at the same time, like, it's like, oh, we have this going here, this is moving here, this is where your favorite beer comes from and stuff. So yeah, so that's our production site currently, and then Helton that we absorb.
Yeah, those are the 4 main originals. Obviously, we kind of mentioned it, but we bought Helton Brewing, and then we took over their facility, and we're transforming it into our new production facility.
Okay.
So the transformation as far as on the production side is kind of ongoing, but the front of house section that was their tasting room, we've just officially kind of announced its opening at the end of January. It's going to be called The Starving Artist. It's going to be a new concept for us, and kind of an elevated menu, but it's going to be more of a spirits-based concept as far as like the drinks go. Obviously, it's inside of a brewery. There's going to be beer, but they're really going to take our spirits and try to kind of showcase those with some really unique cocktails, kind of elevated cocktail game compared to our other locations, and try to really boost that. There are only hiring people that are really like cocktail focused and people that have like a real passion for craft cocktails. And then they are working on a really awesome food menu as well. It's going to be completely unique from all of our other locations. We brought in this chef with a lot of really good experience, Chef Bruce, and he's actually been using the secondary kitchen at Gilbert as kind of an experiment kitchen while he's working on his menus, which has been great for me because he's always like, hey, will you taste this? So every day I'm just tasting all these things that are awesome and amazing. So I'm really excited for that to open, and they're saying at the end of January that'll be good to go, and so that'll be kind of our newest concept. We also have our Little O's, a slew of those now. We have our one on 5th Ave in McDowell, kind of the OG Little O's.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be basically kind of a taproom concept of OHSO. It's basically an OHSO, slightly different food menu, but some of your favorite OHSO items you'll still recognize on that menu as well, with a kind of flatbread pizzas and some other options that we don't serve at the other OHSOs. And then, our spirits, our beer, and all that. Just they don't have a production aspect as far as they're not making any spirits or beer there. It's just strictly a restaurant taproom kind of thing. So we have 2 of those, and then a third is opening in Sunny Slope as soon as they settle their dispute with the power companies that has been ongoing. Unfortunately, it lands like right on the canal where it's split between
SRP and
and there's some power issue, and they're all arguing about whose responsibility it is to do it. And so I think they're shooting for March now.
March 11th is the date I heard. So.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of stuff underway, a bunch of stuff already open. Obviously, we're at both airports, Sky Harbor and Mesa Gateway. There's a location they're working on out on the 303 in the West Valley. It's going to be kind of it's going to be an OHSO, but it's kind of through a third party as far as how it's going to be operated, almost like a franchised.
It's our airport partners.
Yeah,
so they know what's up. But.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not going to be in-house for us as far as the management is concerned, but It is under our umbrella at the same time.
So we're just taking over the state. I mean, if you can't find an OHSO.
Right.
Yeah.
We just took a shotgun and shot the map, and just everywhere a little BB hit is where we opened one. So
there you go.
We're
very
not too hard to find.
I said this on the last one, but like a lot of benefit comes to like we're very community hyper focus driven. So, that surprise one, the people in that area will start to get some of the love that OHSO brings. Sunny Slope, I just did this parade for them like 2 weeks ago. Just kind of, bring in beer to kind of, bring the awareness for the hub. It's a Hatcher Urban Business kind of coalition that they have to kind of bring some of the, the art out of that area and all this. And it's like we're just trying to better our community and just kind of tuck away in a neighborhood because everybody needs that spot around the corner where they're running into neighbors and they could talk about, like my neighbor, Her name's Ruth. She's 104 years old.
Wow.
And she's like as smart as a whip still.
Yep.
Like, but my mom was walking with my little 4-year-old, and she's like, kind of doing dishes like outside. We're like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, my water doesn't work in my sink anymore, and then so all of us neighbors start talking. We're like, you're 104, you can't be doing
Right.
that. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So we're working on trying to help that. But like, we just try to take care of each other and having a good community, having a gathering place, which we like to consider to be OHSO, to come do that. Because we're always like, yeah, what do you need? How can we help you accomplish what you want to do?
Yep.
And if we can, we will. So
Nice. Very cool. So March 11th, you guys just heard it. If these two have anything to say,
Quote me.
March
You can
11th
find me on
is,
Instagram.
is
Just
the
kidding.
date it will open.
The two people who have absolutely nothing to do with
Right.
it
Yeah, right.
are telling you the dates.
But
So
that's
keep that
Sunny
in mind.
Slope, and what's it's
It's
Central,
Like, yeah, it's like Central and Dunlap almost.
It's
like,
right on the canal as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, right
another
off the
canal
canal.
spot.
of course.
It's really cool.
Kind of your thing, right?
Yeah.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
And then you glazed over Surprise real quickly. I know that's another one that's sort of like it's
Supposed to be huge. I know like the least amount of details on that, but
Yeah.
it's called the Prasada.
from some like
neighborhood? Is that
renderings
right?
I've seen,
It might
it's
be.
monster.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is brand new.
Okay.
Like the whole area is being built up from scratch.
Yep.
From what I've heard, there's kind of like maybe 4 or 6 kind of Arizona staples that are going in right next to each other, and they're all being built right now. They're all kind of in the process of getting put up. So
Okay.
we don't have any dates on that yet, but it's in the works, and that area should be. If you're out in the West Valley, it should be like a real hot spot once it gets going, I would imagine.
Very nice. Prasada, I think it's called, right? Is the shopping center area? I think the name is that's the name.
Maybe
that
there's
I've
a
heard.
Costco near it or something.
What down?
Yeah.
I hear words. I'm like, where is that? Oh, man.
And is that one? Do you know? Is that canal side?
I don't know if there's a
sided
canal
also?
there.
Might
Honestly,
be.
I don't know a lot about
Okay.
that
Yeah.
area of town. I go out to Sun City West quite a bit to hang out with my grandma, but I haven't really explored the area outside of there. We usually just get in the golf cart and go wherever that gets us. So haven't made it that far yet, but yeah, I'll have to drive by next time I'm out there and get a better lay of the land.
The reason I ask, and you mentioned it, well, you both kind of mentioned it a minute ago when you were talking Gilbert and the gravel riding. So this is the first I'll say it publicly. I've mentioned it to a few people just to kind of bounce it off of them and get some feedback. And I'd love to be able to get it off the ground by the end of next year. But something to the effect of, we can toss names around later, but the Tour to OHSO. We can start in Gilbert, and we hit every OHSO along the way going east to west.
Yeah.
Stop in for a quick bite,
Yeah.
a pint, and go straight from Gilbert to Surprise and spend an entire day riding.
Dang.
Yeah.
And then maybe this is not conceptualized at all outside of what my feeble mind can come up with. But maybe every other year you go west to east, just to start it on a different side. But hoping if Surprise has a close canal, we could make that
Yeah.
connection, because everything else we can connect, and I've done it already on the map. So
Yeah.
that's how much I have conceptualized it.
I know.
I can at least get us to the slope.
Yeah.
And then turn us around and get
I've
back.
taken the canal all the way to Lake Pleasant, so I know it goes that way,
Yep.
but I don't know.
We've got to drop it down.
I'm sure there's something that gets you close.
Sure.
So
Yeah, it can't be too far.
it would probably be 150 miles.
Oh yeah,
I would
it's gonna be
imagine.
a long day on a bike.
It's because I did a tour to Bosa, which is kind of a similar thing where you go to
Yep.
all the Bosas.
Yep.
And that was like, maybe 80 or 90 miles. And that was I think that was more of a tight cluster than what OHSO would end up
Right.
being. So,
Yeah, well, we threw the Santan one out there. It was what was the one that you said? I'm sorry, it was one of the new franchise ones. Was it Santan or was it 303? Now I can't remember what you said.
The wide belt.
it's 303 and
That's the one. That's a Surprise.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was
303
thinking,
Grandish. I don't even know. That's a
Gotcha. In
pretty
my mind,
broad
when you
guess.
said it, I went further east, like into like Queen Creek area.
Yeah.
But but I think Gilbert's got a great spot because it is downtown. There's plenty of parking, so you get everybody together.
Yeah,
Have a little breakfast maybe to start off on a
be a
Sunday
good
or
launch
something.
point.
Oh, for
And
sure.
then-
Yeah,
and
everyone's
then
there,
ride
and
over.
then off they go. You could kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know.
you
And we
take
can
that
just- the-
canal over, and then it connects up through Tempe. So there's a way. There's
Yeah.
a way.
And and as you guys grow, as more stores open, we just turn it into a weekend event. Then it becomes a bike packing 3-day.
What is the ride you do all the time?
We do camping somewhere along the way.
Oh,
In Iowa?
Ragbri, yeah. We could do OHSO Bri. Ragbri is a week-long bike trip across the state of Iowa. It goes from, it's like 500 miles, 7 days.
Yep.
It's the whole thing. But, yeah, who knows? Maybe we open one up in Flag and we take the AZT up to there, just make it a week-long a week-long ride.
That's right. We already do a running race that's similar to that, 250 miles. So, Black Canyon City to Flagstaff. So
nice. I rode to Tucson and back a while ago, and I don't know if I ever want to do anything like that again, but maybe I'll have to come out of retirement for this.
Was that canals? Or
no, that was
off-road?
just the highway, really.
Okay.
But yeah, it was 250 miles in like 30 hours, so it was a lot. I think I slept for 6 hours once I got there, and then turned around and came back. But
yeah. I was just reading a Rails to Trails magazine that was featuring a trail here in Arizona that they're building. It'll start in Douglas when it's done. It's the metro stuff like in Tucson and Phoenix and Prescott and such are done, but they're connecting now all the cities, and it's going to start in Douglas all the way to the south, and it's going to end in Vegas.
wow,
1,500 miles.
it's going to be a railroad,
It's
former
going to be
railroad.
a lot of canals.
okay.
There's a loop trail in Tucson. The name's escaping me, but then there'll be the Maricopa loop here in Phoenix, the Prescott whiskey loop, up to Flagstaff, hit their loop, and then out towards like Williams, and then out to Vegas to terminate finally.
Wow.
Dang.
Just connecting a bunch of local trail systems.
Local circuits.
So
Probably be like a mountain bike
It'd
one.
be probably
then,
a great mountain bike. I don't know if
because
gravel.
that Prescott one's gnarly.
Right.
Like, that's tough on
that's
on a gravel bike.
yeah.
But
It'd be an interesting ride, that's for sure. And obviously that'd be more like a couple of weeks, I'm sure, in the saddle. But the concept behind it's kind of cool because they're connecting all the communities along the way, and so they're calling it like basically like bike tourism, a credit card ride, where basically you ride the 80 miles to the next town, you just swipe the card, get a hotel room, sleep it off the night, and then go out the next morning and tackle another 80, 120
another segment.
Yeah. So
that'd be
Brody's
cool.
like,
Pretty pretty ambitious. It sounds pretty cool.
Right.
I mean, it's I look forward to seeing how it gets finished, and where to go and what events we can throw out on it.
Maybe
I got a
I
big
could,
van. I'd be your pacer van.
right.
or
Maybe I
whatever.
get John
Yeah.
Lane to sponsor me and do it on also like put on social media.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No,
Probably
that's
take me
cool.
a while. So
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a several day. Let's just say several day adventure.
several days.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. So there we go. That's the business. I wanted to make sure that we got the restaurant some love, because I don't know if we spent enough time on it last time. So just for everyone listening and watching, that's where you go. That's the locations are out there for you. They all have a little bit something different, but they're all pretty much identical.
And we didn't mention neither, but they're all bike friendly. So
by all means, that can
they're all, especially having like the patios. I know, like, as a cyclist, that especially in Arizona, if you can't see your bike, makes you nervous.
Sure.
Like, I don't. Even if you got the best lock in money can buy, if I can't see my bike, I don't like that. So all of our locations have patios, so you can pull your bikes up, you can put them close and be near them, and still enjoy everything. So there's not as many bike friendly places, So it's good to know which ones are fun and good for the group ride after you guys get done. So
yeah. No, and that's honestly, 2 years ago or so when I first met Cale, that was the reason why, I went. Not only did I, have a little bit of a background with John, but you're bike friendly, and so it made sense for a bike race company to reach out to somebody who loves bikes as well.
Yeah.
And supports the biking community.
I mean, the bike thing just kind of came around because the people, like,
the
dog treats were kind of premeditated. Like, we need to be a dog friendly bar.
Sure. Yeah. That makes
people
sense.
work all day, then they go home and they feel bad about leaving again. You know, so get your dog, come out. It's good for you to both be social. But the bike thing kind of came with, like right off the canal in Arcadia, where can we park our bikes? Where we put our bikes? So it went from like one bike rack to like 8, like, because people just want a beach cruiser or whatever just in the neighborhood, and just kind of, head on over and be safe, not driving stuff. But that's kind of where, people like to bike. Okay.
Yeah.
Just kind of, absorb what the community gave you, and that's what we got.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really frustrating when you go to a place that like should be bike friendly and they kind of give you flack. But we're always, accommodating for people. I was recently at a place I won't name, but they have a huge patio and it's in a bike area, and there was a haboob had rolled through, and there was a bunch of us on our bikes, and we were trying to just seek shelter because it was 100-mile-an-hour winds. We were getting destroyed. There's stuff like flying through. It was a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And we go there, and we were trying to like just run in, and they're like, "Sorry, you can't bikes on our patio." And we were like, "We're trying to like it's like escape a natural disaster here."
Right.
And they're
There's
like,
no patio. Yeah.
"Nope, sorry, no bikes allowed." And we're just like, "Okay." And so then we go like 2 doors down to another more friendly establishment that I will say, Greenwood Brewing, and they don't even have that great of an area for bikes, but they let us bring them into their little tiny 200 square foot tap room.
Was it little O's that kicked you out? Is that what you're trying to say?
Summer.
Name drop it. Was it Arcadia or was it the one by? Yeah.
No. So it's
So you had refuge in Greenwood.
yeah. Greenwood gave
Shout
us
out.
refuge.
Yeah, shout out to
the great
Local
people,
breweries, yeah.
Fellow Iowans.
Yeah,
they get that Iowa nice. So
Very nice.
yeah, they helped us out, and we the power went out. It was like a big storm. It was crazy. The transformer like across the street blew up. It was like this fire. It was like the biggest firework I've ever seen. Went off like 20 feet away from where we were all sitting.
Wow.
Luckily we were inside, but then all the power went out to the entire area, and it was a crazy experience. But made it home safe.
That was this summer?
This was like maybe 2 months ago.
Wow.
So,
I don't remember a storm that bad, but
Yeah. It was in like the evening around like 7 or 8 o'clock on probably like a Tuesday or something. But
dang.
yeah, I was just out riding down Central, and all of a sudden I'm like putting down 1,000 watts and going like 3 miles an hour, just
goodness.
straight into
Into the gale.
yeah, just like I've never had something like that happen to me. So
Crazy. One of the features I just found out about, because I don't unfortunately live too close to one of the OHSOs, but I did a group ride just a couple of months ago from Arcadia. Actually, we went to Slope and then turned around and came back. So just kind of a fun ride, and then had a breakfast at Arcadia. That you have locks already there for someone if they forgot or it dropped off or whatever. Most of us, if we're going to go out, we'll remember to bring a lock, because obviously, as you said, we want the bike to be locked up safe, and we're in a very urban area, so there is crime.
Right.
In case you hadn't seen it, there is crime in Phoenix occasionally.
What?
And but yeah, you can go to the bar if you don't have your lock, or if it fell off, or whatnot, you forgot it. You can, is it just ID or whatever?
they just check one out. Yeah,
You just check it out.
toss you the key, and
Great little feature too, to make it again kind of like a one step over that whole friendliness. Like, not only are you bike friendly, bikes close by, you can see it. This happened, you forgot your lock, we got you covered.
yeah. There's also a nice, if you're at the Arcadia location, which is kind of butted up to our Little O's. On the Little O side, there's like a nice like a turf area.
Yeah.
And a lot of the group rides that we go on, the end back there, everyone just piles up their bikes over on that turf area and just hangs out, because you can just sit next to your bike and hang out. So great place to toss the bike to.
Nice.
So
Awesome. Cale, you joined us in the lavender lemonade.
I'm on the adventure, man. It's nice.
But I wanted to ask you, because you had the bright earlier, just a quick, since we talked about what the lavender is like, tell everybody what the bright, what they could expect if they tried a bright lager.
Bright. I mean, brights are, Grandpa drinks a light beer and Dad drinks a light beer, and it's just our version of just a very easygoing, no fuss light beer.
What makes it different?
And honestly, like, it's just, the word craft just means more to me, but it's just a word. But you could tell that it's a little more, like, there's more attention to it just because it's light and it seems plain.
Yep.
There's just more nuances to it. It just has a little more flavor. It has a little more, character to it. It's not just like your regular, I'm just going to make all this and put it all in cans all over the nation.
Right.
I mean, that's a great business to be able to do that. But we, our guys, like, we need it to have some substance.
Yep.
Because that's, that's what we like. That's what we do. For a lot of these beers, I might have mentioned it last time. It's like it's kind of like a sense of an art gallery. You know, I mean, these guys make beer and their art is in the can, and you might taste it and taste something different than I do.
Sure.
Just like when you look at art, but like the artists put a lot of time and effort into what goes into there, not just because they're bored or whatever. Like our guys are always seeking education. Our owner allows us to go do things to, you know, further the education. We sent one of our brewers to Chicago for 2 weeks. He was gone.
Okay.
But learned a ton about IPAs and, you know, hazy IPA and the style and all that stuff. Like, you know, what should you do to make it better? You know, it's like that. Then in turn, you're able to bring it home, and we're able to, you know, to mess around with that till we find something that everybody likes. So, but yeah, Bright's just open another one. But
Yeah. It's a lawnmower beer. It's a lawnmower beer for sure.
yeah, I
but
like that
definitely
term.
did feel left
I like that.
out,
Yeah.
so I grabbed the.
yeah, like it definitely has unique aspects to it, but it's kind of like not every beer is necessarily like trying to stand out. In this style, I guess it's more of a style that you're almost trying to blend in. Like you want it to taste like kind of the macro beers that you find at the gas station, but for us, we also use it as a stepping stone when people walk in our doors and they're new to craft beer and they need that, you know, baby steps
I'll take
to
Coors
get
Light.
there. It's like
We
you order a Busch
Not
Light.
to name anyone.
Sorry, we don't carry anything like that. Here's Bright. You know, here's your baby step, first step down the path. So you get them opened up with the Bright. Then the next, you know, oh well, if you like this, we have a German Pilsner, a maybe a few different other lager styles that are similar, but maybe a little more flavor, maybe a little more hop profile, maybe something else. And so we just use that to kind of build their experience, because a lot of times people come to a brewery to have some type of craft beer experience. And so maybe they, you know, are brand new to craft beer, and this beer is a great way to kind of like break the seal and kind of start their journey down the path. And so it's not necessarily a beer that is supposed to stand out for a lot of reasons. It's kind of supposed to feel familiar to people who are unfamiliar to craft. So
You'd be surprised. People are like, "Oh man, this is really good," you know, and they've been drinking the same beer for as long as they can remember, and then they try something else. It's like you just open up a whole new, you know, box for them, man.
No, it's a great concept, a great philosophy. Because you guys have to remind me. I know you'll do like a guest brewery occasionally, or you have some that are on that maybe, you know, maybe full time on tap at other breweries, but no like macro national.
No, we're only in
offerings, right?
Arizona.
It's only
we're not.
But yeah, on tap at our restaurants, we have 36 taps at most of our places. Probably at least 10 of those are guest taps.
Yeah.
We try to feature other Arizona breweries primarily, but we do have some national brands as well. But we don't have any of the corporate kind of big time Anheuser-Busch style stuff.
Sure.
It's if it is a national brand, we still try to stick to craft. So
Okay. Yeah. No, that's great, because I've certainly been in enough breweries where they do still have, like, you know, the bud is still tucked into the cooler. Yeah. And if you come in and ask for it, then, you know, rather than try to upsell you on one of ours, or not even upsell, but, you know, hey, I've got one that's similar. Here's your baby step. We'll just give you the bud, and then you don't even try my beer that you've come into my store.
It's really cool because there's a lot of smaller breweries in Arizona that really OHSO's kind of changed the trajectory of their business, because you get on it, like, let's say Gilbert, my location, where we do a lot of business on our busy periods, and we might sell 10 of their kegs in a week. And that's like what they're used to selling at their operation maybe in a month. And so we're really putting them on and giving them like a stage to showcase their beers that they don't, maybe they're tucked away in some smaller town and, you know, up north. And
Prescott, that brewery, when Arcadia just came out, they brewed the trail ale that they have for themselves and then for us, because like that was like their maximum capacity was to have enough in house, and then we sold the rest. Like they couldn't really get it out anywhere else.
So it's like we also provide other brewers a real opportunity to really get their beer out to a lot of people and really have a good opportunity to showcase their products in a really just like a no risk, high reward low cost of entry opportunity, way, because all their, they sell us the beer, we do the rest. So
Right.
We love to we're not selfish. We want, if we succeed and you succeed, we all succeed. It's all for the benefit of the scene and the Arizona craft scene. And it's kind of a industry thing, but we don't really look at other people as competitors. Our competitors are making 1 million gallons of beer a day.
Right.
They're not
Right.
the guys up north or down the street. It's we're still a small fragment of the beer market. So if we're fighting with each other, we're getting nowhere. We're trying to take chunks of territory from those guys that are moving 80% of the beer in this country, not the guys that are, making a couple batches a week. So
Yep.
And we just had last week, Friday, we just had a brewery out of Tucson. They just bought the brewery and they're changing the name, but they came in to brew. They're not even up and running yet.
Okay.
But they brewed a beer with us, a collaboration beer that will be, one, it'll be letting people know that there's another local brewery in town.
Yep.
And two, they'll have beer for when they open, because they won't have all this beer, so it's like we're helping them, like, you're going to have some beer on hand so that you guys could sell it when you open.
Yep.
Plus your name will get out there so people will be like, what's this brewery about? And we do that. Anytime there's a new brewery, we're always like, let's do something,
yeah. And they get to shadow a brew day, and so that kind of gives them some good information on what it looks like in our operation, at least. But as they're getting up and running, there's a lot of things up in the air as far as what their operation and production is going to be. So getting to go to another local spot and see how they're doing it is always going to be beneficial to someone who's starting a business. So yeah, we're always super accommodating to our local folks. So that's cool.
I like to think people don't really talk trash about us. They might, because whatever. But
we're like the kid that's impossible to hate.
Essentially, I just think, it's like we show up. We're always helping people out. We're always doing this. Like, somebody's, beer equipment is leaking. Like, we stop what we're doing to go help them.
Yeah.
It's not about us. It's about all of us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the freaking point? So.
Right.
Yeah. And our ownership, even predating us, and what we're talking about now, is a long history of helping other small businesses get started as well. And whether it's buying them a bunch of kegs because they ran out of money, or helping them with some funding or whatever,
they need some grain just to brew,
right? We're always been that guy that will give the shirt off their back, in a sense, to help you get going. So
there's a very famous saying, which I'm going to butcher right now. High tides raise all ships.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds exactly like what you're doing. I mean, you're all there. You're all in the same business. You said it perfectly. It's not the million barrels a day. They're the competitor. It's not, the other guy down the street who's also, calls himself a craft nano brewery.
Well, it's so, I sit on the board for the Brewers Guild, and, we talk about, our population and numbers. And it's like, you go to San Diego, there's 400 or 500 breweries in this little, and it's like we have just over 100 in the entire state.
Right.
So they're like, what we could do, like there could be 4 times, 5 times as many breweries, because they're successful all the same.
Sure.
But it's, there's not, but it's like there's no point in us, bumping heads with each other. It's like, one, we see each other everywhere. 2, like Brody was saying, like we're all kind of, we're on one side against, not even against, but, it's like we're just trying to showcase our passion.
Sure.
Yeah.
More
If you're quabbling with another brewery, you need to take a step back and like get a little perspective. And then if you even take another step back, it's like, are we even competing against beer, or are we competing against wine and spirits and
right.
Like, or maybe people that don't drink. I mean,
right.
It's all about perspective, but at the end of the day, it should be just about everyone growing together. So, and we're pretty good about embracing that. So,
sounds like it. Where is the space for, or is there, I should say, maybe phrase it a different way, is there a space for the home brewer to have a slightly larger commercial outlet? Has anyone ever discussed, and you just talked about the guild, and I'm not sure exactly what the guild does, but is there a sense of like having a place where like the home brewer could go rent space for a couple hours to brew what they want to do, having
We
professional
actually
equipment.
work really closely with the Arizona Homebrewers Association. So they have their own kind of association, and we do, I think, probably 2 to 3 collabs a year where they get to dictate the recipe. I mean, they collectively as a group of homebrewers come up with a recipe, come up with whatever, and then they just come to Gilbert and we just help them do it on our scale. So
they have a pretty good, like, for what it seems like, they got pretty good clout, in the industry. I mean, a lot of these guys, your Sierra Nevadas and all that, like, they were all original homebrewers,
Right.
I mean?
Right.
Four Peaks, same thing. Everybody starts somewhere because there's no just big breweries that you just walk into and do that. There's more now. But, I mean,
homebrewing is also kind of a new thing because it was illegal until old Jimmy Carter came along. So I used to go to this, if you're into beer, and maybe it's a little bit far-fetched, but there's a place in Des Moines where I'm from, Iowa, called El Bait Shop that has the most taps of any bar in the country. I think they have like 290 taps now at this point.
Wow.
But every week on like Thursday night, they would host this thing called Jimmy Carter Happy Hour where they would let homebrewers come and they could serve their homebrew. And they couldn't charge for it or anything, but they just come and you just walk around they would just sample out their homebrews, and you just kind of walk around the room, try everyone's, and sometimes you'd get one, you'd be like, maybe keep working on that, but it was cool that they get a little like stage to showcase their stuff, and
that's awesome.
And celebrate the fact that Jimmy Carter made it legal for us to do this. So
yeah, it's like every barbecue pit started somewhere too, right?
Right.
I mean, everybody learned something from somebody that passed down a secret here or there. Homebrewers are going to tell you the things they've learned, and it's beer. That's what I say in my job when they get stressful. I'm like, it's only beer. Like, there are things you got to do, but at the end of the day, like,
a majority of professional brewers started as homebrewers, I would say.
Sure.
I mean, it's getting a little bit. The times are changing slightly now that there's a lot more degrees available at colleges for brewing. So. But prior to that, when there was, maybe only UC Davis and Siebel in Chicago were kind of like the only places you could even go, and if you didn't have $50,000 to spend on a brewing degree, then you had to just start homebrewing if you had interest in becoming a professional brewer. So that was the way. And then eventually, if you kind of did well with it, and you probably went to your local brewery and bugged the owner enough times to try your stuff, then he'd give you a shot to start working there. So that was kind of the original path to getting into craft beer as a brewer. So there's a lot of history with homebrewers.
That's cool. If anybody listening is entrepreneurial minded, I think there was 2 great ideas that I just came up with. So reach back out to me. But let's get something going with where like the home brewer who maybe doesn't have the kitchen at home or just wants something a little bit better than bigger than what they can do at home. Let's get something going where like there's a place that you could just rent a space. You go in on a Saturday for 2 hours. And then the other one was the let's get more home brewers out there and focus. Like let's get a beer festival that's down at Tempe Town Lake, but has a home brewer section where you can rent a table. You can't charge, I guess. I know there's laws around a lot of stuff. Figure out what the law is.
Beer
But
fest, you just
but I mean, Jimmy, the guy from Mesa can bring in his Jimmy Ale, and you can sample a couple of his things too.
Yeah,
not just the the OHSOs.
Could be an interesting paired with a mountain bike race or something.
There we go.
Wait
a second.
Yeah,
I think I know a guy.
That's what I was saying. I mean, you just like we could do a collective winner.
For sure.
Have a
everyone gets
Brody.
a vote. Everyone who raced gets a wooden chip that you can vote for your favorite, and then the winner of the most popular homebrew gets some kind of prize, whatever it is.
A little extra swag.
Yeah.
Nice.
Best in show.
Yep.
Best in show.
Yeah.
We did talk about that, Cale. I should bring that back up around too. Doing possibly, I know we even talked about it for the race next month. I don't know if it's too soon to continue it, but at least bring the conversation up for a race in the future as like offering that as a prize. Like first on the podium, we can figure out how many you can. How many can you? Get a day and brew, and that can be just
come in, you name it.
Not only do you take home first place, but you get a certificate to come into OHSO later and brew a beer, name it after your mom. or whomever,
Yeah.
whomever you love the most.
He has a beer. I just love the story, but his grandma makes this awesome banana bread or pumpkin bread.
Yeah.
And he took her recipe that she makes a bread, but he, tweaked it to a
Yeah.
beer, and it's Grandma Gala's banana bread.
That's awesome.
it.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
fantastic.
She's famous in some circles in Sun City because of that beer. So, yeah.
Grandma Gale. Shout out to Grandma Gale.
Yeah, this big, if you do that gravel ride or whatever,
Yep.
we can kind of scale up and have something fun.
Right.
And
Right.
Brody can maybe jump on that if.
There's a lot of options surrounding biking and beer and and collaboration opportunities for sure.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Keep us in mind.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Top of mind always. The other one, actually, now that I think of it, was the brewing the Aravaipa. Again, names can be thrown out. I came up with that one because the name ends and our name ends in IPA, so it almost kind of makes sense. We could do it as a hoppy lager if you want to, but Arav hoppy lager doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to do something like that where not only are we, we've got a few cans at the beer garden, but maybe we have one that is an actual, specialty, and whether we actually collaborate with you as, sending some people from here to do it, or, you guys just come up with a new recipe. That'd be kind of a fun thing to do.
Well, we do
continue this partnership.
We do something cool where it's like, your signups, you could do like early signups for the year when we have this release or something.
Yeah.
It gets you like a, percentage off on all your, entry fees or something like that. Because we could like blast that out, and people that show up to one of the locations go where it probably would house the most or something like that, but people turn up and they just, like, hey, I want to do this race, and this race, and they're there, and it's, we're featuring your beer.
Like a registration event where you have a beer and a beer release.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could definitely work on something like that. Talk about when your releases are coming up and figure out how we can pair it.
Yeah, a lot of my race teammates are big Aravaipa race fans. So,
okay.
They're the more blessed ones than I that actually have a mountain bike. But there's a lot of crossover between road racing and mountain bike racing. So
for sure.
Yeah, a lot of my teammates have been doing a lot of your races. So
very cool.
I'm sure they'd show up to whatever this event would be.
Very good. Yeah, well, we did our first gravel race earlier this month, beginning of December. I'm sure we had some of your teammates out there.
Yeah,
I know we had a few heavy pedal.
15 or so did it.
Okay.
From my team.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Any good feedback that you want to tell me live or
I haven't
on camera?
I will get some for you, but I honestly haven't talked to him about how it really went. Besides the fact that they all seemed like it was a good time. So
cool.
I think they all rode it with their mountain bikes for the most part.
Okay.
But, otherwise I haven't heard anything bad, so that's always a good sign.
Cool. No, so it was a first ever for us gravel race. I did allow any bikes in, minus the e-bikes, because we're still usually limited more by land ownership than anything else on the e-bikes. Plus, I know a lot of people don't like the e-bikes. But we won't go in that way right now. But anyway, no, it was our first gravel race. I wanted as many people to experience the course so if they had a full mountain, by all means, come out and ride your cross country bike. But I think in the future, to make it more specialized, it will be a gravel only. So drop bars, the whole shebang.
How do you think it went?
I think it went great.
Yeah.
I've heard some of the feedback. There's some good and let's say constructive criticism, which I think is it's all fair. Nothing was hurtful. Nothing came back was I'm oh, that really stung. Yeah. It's all good for learning experiences, because again, it's our first, so you got to learn. You got to trip before you fall or stumble before you fall. So some really good constructive feedback. A lot of great, just positive, wow, this was great. I've never been here before. We've never done one of your races. We had the biggest turnout from any race that I'm aware of. So it was definitely and half of them were on the gravel side, either the 25 or the 50 mile. So that was pretty cool too.
Cool, man.
Just to see that many people went, and tried it. So yeah, it was really good. So we'll do more.
Where to start?
It was at McDowell Regional Park.
Okay.
So it was a 25-mile loop. That snuck outside the park for a quick second, but I think technically it's actually still the land of the park. You just had to go through the gate on the road. But yeah, 25-mile loop. They did it either 1 or 2 times, depending on how far they wanted to go. We had cross-country races going on at the same time on a different loop, but they kind of intersected at times because of just the availability of loops. Those were more gnarlier trails to accomplish too, so those were definitely cross-country style. There was like one patch that was pretty inevitable to the gravel ride that was a little gnarly, maybe 200 yards, nothing too crazy. The rest of it was like super smooth and some really cool downhill. You got to climb up to get them, but you're rewarded by like these 2-mile downhill stretches, which were pretty fun. So
was there a 100-mile option for that race?
There was in the cross country.
Okay. And I think that a lot of my teammates did the 100-mile.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they all podiumed too.
Oh yeah. Okay. I did meet a bunch of those guys.
Yeah.
I cannot recall all their names.
Right.
Or even one.
I know my buddy Oscar, who's my roommate.
Yeah. Okay. I do remember
sure
Oscar.
He got second place.
There we go. Both Aarons, no Oscar.
And yeah. And then I think Marco, one of my other teammates, I don't know if he podiumed, but I think another one of my teammates got third.
Okay.
So.
Yep. I remember that group at the end. Waiting for the final rider to come in and
because they got their belt buckles, right? Was that a thing? Yeah, they were all
100 mile. They get the buckle.
They were stoked to get their belt buckles. So.
Yep. Definitely. Again, I'll kind of release it here. The gravel will definitely have a larger 100-mile option next year as well, plus the option for relays and that side too. So,
nice.
If you're only a 25-mile rider but you have 3 friends, sign up for the 100 relay and you'll get a collective 100 at the end of the day. So, just based on the popularity of this race, we'll expand it next year.
Nice.
And I'll expand it to the gravel categories into a few other places that we have a good sense of gravel space.
There's so much good gravel.
Give us some of that like digital content so we could post on our TVs.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Even still, it's like people know people.
Sure.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, oh, my friend's doing this ride or something like that. You know, when they see it or talk about it. But yeah, to just kind of grow that would be awesome. Just connect with everybody.
Yep. Yeah. I've through you, I've been introduced at least digitally to Tess and the other girl's name I'm forgetting who does your social, Danelle.
Yeah.
Yep. So definitely would put up a kind of a two-way communication street with some of that stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing a lot more on the ride side with digital content. Getting the drone out there, getting a couple guys out there with GoPros to like either follow on the pack, or maybe it's our Monday group ride. We're just gonna record the whole ride, fall or no fall, and just put it out there. Not necessarily edited for anything. Might add a soundtrack to it, but it's not necessarily supposed to be a polished thing. It's just hey, this is Monday, December 9th ride at Somo. We did 12 miles, and you've got 90 minutes of us just kind of riding around and having fun as a group.
Yeah, I mean, people would find that a lot of people are like, man, I really want to ride this trail, but I don't know what to expect. And then like, I can just go watch this video of people riding that trail, and then I'll know exactly what to expect. So. Yeah.
And it ends in a beer garden, so it's a win-win, Yeah.
Definitely have to end more, find more races to end or rides to end at the beer gardens for sure.
Yeah, it could be like the bonus lap.
Right, there you go. Yep.
It's like there's a finish line, but then there's a second
the beer run. Yeah.
Yep. Very nice. What's on tap for you guys coming up in the future? So we talked about, just kind of mentioned a couple of the stores that are opening up, but anything else concept-wise or beer-wise that you're looking to do in the future? Something that maybe a little different or something you're excited about?
Yeah, man. I mean, for us, in our game is always, I'm sure there's a lot of games like that, but you gotta stay up to date and constant with what the trends are and all that stuff. So I mean, when I started, I don't know if anybody thought seltzer would be a thing.
Right.
And now we're talking about all sorts of different ones. Even, I went on our first trip to go get barrels to start barrel aging. Now we have a barrel aged production manager, things, and it's probably some of our more hyped beer that we put out is our barrel aged stuff.
Okay.
The quantity is a lot less,
sure.
But the everyday drinker wants, light beers or, XYZ, whatever that might be that they have 3-4 at a sitting.
Right.
But, we're always looking.
I mean, speaking of barrel aged, we do have a big barrel age release this weekend.
What?
Was that planned?
We only have a handful of these a year, but last time we were here, we were talking about Bananarchy, which is kind of one of our if you're talking about like hype and stuff, one of our bigger ones.
It's the most hype. Don't let them play coy. What are you, a fish? Get a pond.
Yeah, but the next one that's coming out is actually this weekend. It's called Morning Grind. It's an Imperial Breakfast Stout, which is kind of like the OG classic barrel-aged stout style was like the breakfast stout. It was like when I was coming up in the brewery game, those were like the whales or whatever you want to call it, where it was like who has the best bourbon barrel-aged breakfast stout, which, it always involves coffee and maple syrup. And then some people have different variations on top of that. Our version is coffee, maple syrup, and then we use a little bit of cacao nibs and vanilla beans in there, kind of add a little bit of a rounded out sweetness to the beer. It doesn't add sugar, but it's like the perception of sweetness. Those flavors have sweet notes that make it feel sweeter without actually adding more sugar.
Right.
But kind of rounds out the flavor profile. Makes it really delicious, just coffee forward, but those hints of maple, vanilla, and like baker's chocolate just really kind of drive it home.
What barrels are you using?
We had Russell's Reserve 10-year bourbon barrels on this one, so that might just like those terms might mean nothing to some people, but what that means technically is that the barrels were first used to age bourbon for 10 years. All bourbon is aged for some extent of time, most of them at least 2 years and up. And then you see like those Pappy Van Winkle 19-year, insane stuff. And to kind of explain why those things are more expensive, every year that it ages, you lose what they call angel share, which is a percentage of the volume inside of that barrel just due to evaporation.
Right.
So you might fill it up 50 gallons after 19 years of aging. There might be like 12 gallons of liquid left in that, but it's just been, just concentrated and extracted all the best flavors of this barrel. But there's such a huge loss. That's why it's more expensive.
Sure.
But anyways, so bourbon ages for 10 years in that barrel for these Russell's Reserve. They empty the barrels immediately while they're still wet. They ship them over to us. We throw beer right back into them and then age them for whatever period of time that we use, usually somewhere from 10 months upwards to, I think the longest one we've done is like 3 or 4 years. And then we pull that beer out, and then for this kind of style, then we age it on the adjuncts, which is the coffee beans, vanilla beans.
Well, the reason we barrel age a beer is that when the beer sits in those barrels, anything that's left over from the bourbon or some of that flavor, we kind of it slowly seeps out and contracts into the beer. So when we can these beers, you're getting the essence of what that barrel kind of possessed before.
Yeah.
So
you get like definite bourbon and oak notes from the barrel, and then blended with the different adjuncts used for the beer, which for this is like the coffee and vanilla and stuff like that. And so it's aged in there, and then we kind of blend it all up and throw it in. So we have the Morning Grind coming out this weekend, and then we always do a variant of our barrel age releases, so an even more limited small run where we kind of reimagine the beer with like different additions or different flavors. So through just a random conversation, as so many of these things are, me and Cale were talking about, he's like, well, maybe we did like a Irish coffee or like a Bailey's and coffee kind of flavor for something. And so
he's like, what do you like with your coffee? Bailey, more booze, please.
Right. So,
Bailey's is what I like with my coffee.
We're trying to reimagine a coffee breakfast. So the variant this year is called Irish Cream Morning Grind. So it's kind of the same base beer. The amounts of coffee and maple are altered slightly for this version, and then it's also aged on roasted hazelnuts. And then we got some caramel and some vanilla cream in there to kind of give it the Bailey's and coffee flavor. So it's super good. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out, and so we're excited.
He was skeptical at first, but like a good chef or anything, it's not like I think Irish cream. I pick up a bottle, and that's what I know it to be. But it's you break it down into what its flavor profile is, and so he just
Yeah, it's like we reverse engineer it. It's like, okay, we want it to taste like Irish cream. Well, what does Irish cream taste like?
Yep.
And so then you taste it and you read about it and you read that it's like hazelnut and it's caramel and it's obviously the cream, the vanilla, and it's like, okay, so how do I incorporate those flavors into a beer that already has a flavor profile in its own right due to all the crazy stuff that it's been through with the barrel aging and this and that. So you just got to find creative ways to incorporate those flavors into it. Was able to buy a bunch of really good hazelnuts, and I do all my own nut roasting. So roasted up those nuts.
And that's where we lost everyone.
I
tried to not laugh. I really did.
But roasted them up and got them in the beer, and it turned out really, really good. And so I'm really excited about that one. But yeah, it'll come out along with Morning Grind, so they kind of come out side by side. They'll release at all of our locations, and then there'll be cans to take home as well at all of our locations that have retail cans to go. And it'll come out Saturday. I think most places open at 9, so it'll be available right when the doors open.
Right before Christmas.
Yeah, perfect thing to grab. It's a great one to sip on Christmas Day with family because these beers are really nice in a little smaller quantities. They come in a 12-ounce can, but a nice one to split with another person or two.
14, what is this, 14?
14.2% alcohol, but it hides it really well. I mean, you don't taste it on the way down, but you kind of start to feel warm and fuzzy real quick.
Sure.
So it has that warming effect with the higher alcohol, but it does hide the ABV well. You don't taste the heat.
Sure.
Which is another thing that barrel aging helps with those high alcohol beers, is really mellows out the alcohol flavors. So it's a really nice one. I know some of our other ones get a lot more hype as far as Bananarchy and these things, and they're great beers in their own right, but this is like the classic. This is like the one that if you're going to make barrel-aged beer, you got to know how to make a breakfast stout. So it's one of my favorites. I think it's probably one of Cale's too. Yeah. So
very cool.
A great one to have around for the holidays. So
available at all locations with retail.
Yeah, it'll be on draft at all of them.
Okay.
Just cans to go will just be at the PV, Arcadia, and Gilbert locations.
And it's crazy too because it's all these barrel aged stuff are limited in a sense. I mean we do them every year, but every year we get different barrels and different things could happen, and there's different temperatures throughout the year,
right?
And all this. So like to recreate a beer exactly is impossible.
Yep.
So this beer could be the best version. We've done it 4 or 5 years now.
This is the 6th time.
6th year.
Yeah.
And this could be the best version. It could be the worst version. You just don't know. Like Brody's got all beers on hand. I'm sure a vertical is what we call it for the last 6 years. If you were to taste them all and try it, but like people are like, oh, I love that beer. Can you do it again? We did a beer called Moulin Rouge, and it's rated one of the highest beers in the world.
Okay.
But it's gone. When we did it and we put it out, you're not going to get it again. So you want to sit around and wait for the hype train to ride, and you're like, oh, I've been hearing about this. Okay. Sorry, it's gone. You can't just make it again.
Yeah, that beer specifically, I think it aged for 3 years, and it was kind of a random thing. It was a Belgian quad that sat in bourbon barrels for 3 years.
Wow.
Pulled it out, and we didn't even really have a plan for it, just tasting it and saying, man, this tastes really good, but let's throw some toasted coconut and toasted pecans and like other things in there and just let it hang out with those things for a bit, and then pull it out. I'm like, man, this Belgian quads aren't really that sought after, hyped up of a style, but we put it out, and it just those who got it wasn't like this huge thing where people lined up out the doors, but people came by and bought it, and then word kind of got out that it was like, man, if you try that, you got to go get it. And so, but now it's like one of those unicorns. It's like people post up and they're like, my last one, like teardrop, this is on Untapped, which is one of the beer rating apps. It for Belgian quads, I think it's like the 3rd highest rated Belgian quad in the history of Belgian quads.
Wow.
Made by
from Gilbert, Arizona.
Not even Belgium, right?
It's not as far from Belgium as you can get.
Oh yeah.
And every like monk brewer who ever made a quad is like rolling in their grave knowing that we aged it on coconut and nuts and stuff, like completely anti like tradition. But it's
but I mean, even again this year, like get it, like it, whatever, but only time will tell like how popular that one was.
Right.
And when it's gone, it's gone. You know?
Yeah,
Nice.
but I do feel really good about this year's batch.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling really nice about it. So
Cool.
if you're into that style, don't sleep. Go grab one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Bright
good
and early.
gift. If you don't have a gift for anybody,
It's an
before
easy gift.
holidays,
Yep.
You put it in a stocking. It might weigh it down some, but
you got a bourbon lover in the family, or somebody likes big beers.
you got a crazy ass family, dude.
It's also the gift that keeps on giving, because you give them that 4-pack, they're probably going to open one and drink it with you right there. So you know
Sure.
you get a little bit of
Little love
give
back.
back on that.
I do that.
Right.
He probably knows, but I do that for my brother. I'll buy him for his birthday. I'll buy him like concert tickets of shows I want to go to, but I'll buy it for him. Like, dude, we gotta go to the show.
Nice.
And so it's like,
Yep.
yeah.
Cool. Quick questions on the kind of the process. So for something like the quad that was aging for 3 years, what's the like? How often do you taste it? Is it like monthly?
Yeah, it's
Just
kind of
when
a-
you remember to.
It's a slippery slope, because you don't want to disturb the beer too
Right.
much while
Sure.
it's aging.
Yep.
So you kind of gotta pick your times to try it. So I would say I was probably trying it once a year for the first couple of years, until I was ready to blend it. And then once I'm like, okay, this beer's coming out of barrel, you're not as worried about disturbing it at that point, because you're aware that you're going to move it completely out of the vessel into a new one. But yeah, it's when you're first starting a barrel program, you're probably tasting your barrels a lot more often, because you're trying to kind of understand the dynamic of, if you haven't done it in that location, or especially me coming from Iowa, doing barrels there for 8 years and making wine in barrels and all that stuff. And then coming here, the environment has a huge effect on the way wood interacts with beer, because wood is a porous material. It also absorbs liquid, and it's hydrated. So as the air dries and gets more moist, it actually causes the beer inside of the barrel to be drawn into the wood and pushed back out. If it's humid outside, then the wood will absorb moisture from the humidity, and it will push the beer back into the barrel. If it's dry outside, the wood will get dry, and it will start to extract moisture from the beer, and so it will pull the beer into the wood. And so throughout the year, it has this kind of ebb and flow where it's moving in and out of the wood.
You call it the old in and out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The through the bunghole too, which is what the opening is called. There's a lot of puns there, funny things to say, but
I think we just changed the rating of this podcast.
Well, it's science.
yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of interaction with the environment in barrels. So that's kind of a unique aspect of that. Most beer is extremely controlled. It's inside of a stainless steel vessel. It's under pressure. It never interacts with the outside atmosphere at all. Once it's brewed and into a tank, the next time it experiences the atmosphere or any type of external factors is when you crack open the can. Ideally, that's how most beer should be handled. It keeps it in the best condition. It maintains the flavors and all the compounds to the best. But barrel-aged beer, you're kind of flipping the switch a little bit. You're allowing the environment to impact it, and that's going to bring all types of variables, but all types of like happy accidents and fun surprises that you get. And sometimes, you know, something that you had really no expectations for turns out to be one of the best beers you've ever made. So it's cool.
Awesome. Sounds very much like a chef at work in the kitchen, right? When they're making something, you know, maybe totally new for them. You know, they've never made a Belgian quad cake. So they're like, I've got to do this. And you taste it, right? And then it's like, it needs a little bit more coconut. So we're going to throw the toasted coconut. Similar, obviously, over a longer period of time than a chef usually takes to come up with a creation. But I'm guessing it's kind of just a similar analogy, similar process.
No, it's similar. It's just, you know, if a recipe took 3 years, then that'd be pretty much right on. It's also kind of more of a incorporating like the old world techniques. I mean, I used to make wine as well, and I really liked how it was kind of interacting more with your environment, you know, the terroir and the different things there, like the impact of the weather on the grapes and the impact of the environment on the fermentation, because it's all open top and you kind of you interact with your environment a lot more. But barrel aging is kind of that middle ground between beer making and those old world wine techniques, because you are getting the effect of the environment on the beer a lot more than any other style. So
I was just
pretty
gonna
cool.
say, isn't there even like something that kind of blows my mind is like farmhouse ales, where like
Yeah.
they literally, it's like open, and if like there's cobwebs that pull in different like yeast, like they just
Cobwebs is
what?
funny. I mean, I don't think there's actual cobwebs in their beer, but there might be, you know.
That's what I was told.
But
I believe
it
everything
could be.
I'm told.
There could be a couple cobwebs in there, but don't think you're drinking cobwebs when you crack one open.
Right.
But
No, but there's just they don't. It's like
yeah, no, they have open top fermentations. So
Yeah.
to try to kind of keep it in layman's terms, but when you ferment beer, you're very specifically choosing one organism that you want to ferment that beer, and that's why it's so controlled and everything's so maintained to such high standards as far as cleanliness and sanitation and all those things. So you don't want outside organisms getting into the beer and out competing the ones that you intend to be fermenting it, because there's bacteria and wild yeast floating all around it. We're breathing them in right now. They're all over your body, on your skin cells, on your pants. Everything around you is covered in different bacteria and wild yeast, and some of them are better at doing things than others. So it gets mixed into a beer, it can outcompete the one that you wanted to be in there, and then it will completely change everything. So, but with Farmhouse, they're just completely opening the door to whatever organisms want to come on in. So they just put it in a vat with no top, and a lot of these places are downwind from an orchard or downwind from a vineyard, or there's a lot of the microflora of the area is rich. Some of the most famous farmhouse places like in Belgium and these areas have like a very unique but diverse microflora of organisms, but they allow those to kind of get into the beer in whatever way that works out, and then there might be 100 different organisms in there competing with each other and doing different things, and throughout the life cycle of the beer, as the pH changes and the gravities and all these different things, sometimes at a higher pH this organism was obsolete, but then over time it drops down, and now this is my sweet spot, so now then this one's coming in. It's this crazy symphony of organisms just doing this crazy stuff, and you get these extremely complex beers that come out of it, and they're super cool. And so that's kind of just like a basic rundown on what Farmhouse is and
Right.
Those types of things. But it's really cool, and like knowing the history, I think, helps you taste those beers a lot better, because you might taste it and be like, man, there's some really weird flavors I'm not used to in it. But if you know how those flavors actually got there and what they are,
Cobwebs,
where they came
yes.
from. Yeah. Cobwebs have a very distinct
most people don't eat cobwebs.
Right.
I'll tell you.
Nature's marshmallows is what we call cobwebs. So yeah, no, it's just a cool dynamic, and you get a lot more complex, like even from a scientific standpoint, a more complex beverage. There's more components to these beverages because of that diversity. So
It's pretty cool. And it sounds like there's some, I don't know if orchestrated is the right word, but you said, they're downwind from an orchard or downwind from a botanical garden or someplace where there's a lot of activity going on. So there's some sort of orchestrated or expected activity. You're still leaving it up to nature to really do it on its own, and whatever walks through the door that day is the one that's going to, have the biggest effect. Have you guys done one? Has OHSO done a
we haven't,
farmhouse style?
because
granted,
we do some wild sours.
Okay.
It's in a very controlled environment, but due to the nature of these types of bacteria, there's a really, really high potential for contamination.
Okay.
So once you kind of live them in your brewery, they don't like to leave.
Gotcha.
They can hide in, we're talking like micron size organisms. So they can crawl into the tiniest crevice somewhere, and if you don't do the best job ever of cleaning something, and there's just one little cell of this thing,
Right.
You put the next beer into there, all of a sudden it starts to form a colony, and then once it's there, it's almost impossible to get rid of sometimes.
People like shut down breweries because they have to just
Complete
totally
decontamination.
eradicate all that.
So it's almost like you're all in or you're all out if you're doing it like big time.
Okay.
We have like a small program that we have all designated equipment for that. So nothing that touches that beer touches anything else.
Sure.
But due to the nature that we have to have designated equipment, it really limits what we can do because we don't have an entire facility for that. So we have to do it kind of on a smaller scale.
Yep.
But we will be releasing the first from that series this spring. It's called Sub 7. It's all wild fermented beers, and so keep an eye out for those. They'll be in glass bottles, 500 milliliters. The first one is it was brewed before the pandemic,
Wow.
And so it's
Okay.
been sitting in
It's
oak
old school
barrels,
beer.
Yeah.
interacting with all these crazy organisms for years and years and years. And then we moved it into a secondary vessel, a fruiting vessel. So we just threw a bunch of raspberries and vanilla beans into this vessel and then took the beer out of the barrel, put it in there, and then it's been re-fermenting with whatever bacteria is naturally on those things. And now it's just the symphony has expanded. So it's a dry, almost champagne-like beverage, but it has a ton of fruit and vanilla bean flavor as well. So it's a very, very unique thing, something that it's more comparable to like a Belgian style sour, Cantillon, some of those more traditional goose makers and those types of things. Don't think like fruited sour, like smoothie sour, like not like anything like that. Like a champagne dry sour beer that's really, really tasty. So that program will be fired up in a couple months, and then look for like quarterly to biannual releases coming out of that moving forward.
Wow. Excellent.
See, told you guys, he's a nerd. But he's passionate. He's a passionate nerd.
Pre-COVID, so will each bottle come with a mask, or is there going to be some sort of a
No,
story?
Pre-COVID.
Well, it's kind of coming into it. Like, does it know? Have you explained to it what happened in the last 4 years?
That beer has no idea what it's in for.
When you open it, it actually coughs in your face. So, back when that was acceptable.
Right. Was that ever? Oh, that's very cool. So that's two. Any other exciting things coming down the pike, or is that all you're willing to share?
Those are like from what I'm working on. Those are some of the things I'm focused on right now. We're always doing like cool one-off stuff. We have Donut Day coming up. We do 3 or 4 themed days a year. We just did like our Christmas beer, 12 beers of Christmas, where we have 12 different Christmas themed beers. So
Donut Day is the most hectic.
Yeah, Donut Day is
During
we
beer
have
week.
a baker's dozen of donut-inspired beers that we all make in-house between our 3 locations. My location's doing 4 different ones, and then we partner with Bosa Donuts. They actually provide the donut to match the flavor. You come in, you order a flight, which is a 4-ounce pour of these donut-inspired beers. They pair it with the donut that goes with that beer, so you get like a flight of 6. You get 6 little samplers of beer with 6 little samplers of donuts that pair with them, and it's a fun day. And I think that's middle of February.
It'll be the week of February 17th, so it'll be right before that, I think.
Nice.
So that's always a fun one if you like the culinary kind of beer pairing.
It's fun to come in and drink and eat. It's not so fun to carry it around. I think we had 102 dozen donuts last year.
Yeah,
because we have to get all that out to every spot. Has 4 dozen of one 12 flavor.
Sure.
And I have a Tundra. Well, the last time I did it, a Tundra was just full to the brim.
Truck bed of donuts. Yeah.
Sounds like an event you ride your bike to. Ride your bike away from.
Right. You need to burn some calories.
It's awesome. I mean, it really is awesome. I mean, we have one called the Simpson or something where it's just
the Elvis donuts. I mean,
the Homer.
If you're diabetic, bring some insulin because it's gonna.
But you don't need like full pints. But it's gone. If you don't show up, it's always on a Thursday. If you don't show up on Thursday, there'll be a rollover to Friday.
With the beers, not with the donuts. Though.
No, with the donuts.
You have to come on the day to get the donuts, but the beers will stick around a little bit. We also do Pie Day. That's always on March 14th, 314, talking about nerds. That's a real nerdy thing, but it is the same kind of deal. Pie-inspired beers paired with actual pie for Pie Snob. So
local.
Is Pie Snob the place? Okay.
Yeah, another local pie maker. So
if you've ever had our apple pie,
we've
been getting it from
that one's always a pretty pop. I mean, March 14th is peak tourism, peak business, peak busy season for Arizona. If you live here, if you've been here, March is spring training baseball, spring break. The weather's beautiful. It's just the place to be. So.
And this year you could come and boo Ohtani.
Yeah. He's a Giants fan, so he's still sore that they offered him the same deal and he chose the Dodgers.
Even if you're a Diamondbacks fan, you can boo Ohtani. You boo every Dodger.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
We don't love the Dodgers, but.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Well, we can keep sports out of it. That's probably a more touchier subject than COVID is at this point. You never know who's listening in. we'll get some hate mail on Dodger hating, or
Dodgers are the best.
It's big bro, little bro, maybe to a degree, but
that could be. Yep. Very cool. So Pie Day is coming up. We've got Donut Day coming up. That's in February.
yeah.
We've got the release coming up this weekend, which is it always right before Christmas, like the weekend before?
I'd like to try to get it out before Christmas because, in my idealistic mind, I'm like, this is something that people would enjoy with friends and family for the holidays. So,
Okay.
And then same with Bananarchy, try to get that out before Thanksgiving. Just so it's a great one to pick up and bring to Thanksgiving dinner. Same with this. It just seems appropriate when you're just hanging out and you don't got anything to do. You don't got work because it's a holiday, and you can it's a good day to enjoy something like that. Because you enjoy a few of them and you probably wouldn't be able to work. So
Yeah, well, 14%.
it's a fun one to share
will
with
sneak up
people
on
too,
you.
because you can just pour like a nice 3-ounce, 4-ounce pour to sip on, and people can kind of experience the beer without having to commit fully to an entire one. And so it's like good and kind of
But
like
it's a share. You just put it out and be like, who wants some?
yeah.
And
You'd be surprised. Like been doing this long enough where my family just expects it, but everyone from Aunt Connie to little cousin Addie
Crazy
wants
Aunt
to try the beers, so
Yeah.
it's for everyone, even if it's not necessarily your style all the time. It's always fun to try it and just really pick out the flavors. Barrel aged beers also kind of pro tip is that let them warm up a little bit. You don't want to pull them straight out of the fridge and pour them into the glass. There's a reason why Buffalo Wild Wings serves their beers frozen, because you can't taste shitty beer when it's cold. It suppresses flavor. So this beer has a ton of flavor, and we want those flavors to come out. And so let it warm up a little bit. Take it out the fridge.
The aromas when it's warm. The aromas.
The aroma. It'll change as it goes through the temperature spectrum. But yeah, pull it out the fridge for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, before you crack it. Or if it's room temperature, throw it in the fridge for 30 minutes.
And then shotgun it, right? Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, that's like late night
Beer
with
bombs.
the cousins. Yeah. Whoever lost at cards has a shotgun in the morning.
Cribbage, yeah.
There you go. Well, I mean, you think back to the Belgians, and some of these very early beer brewers elsewhere in the world. There was no refrigeration, right? So they actually meant for their beer to be, they had a cave where they
the most
mellowed
temperature
it.
control they can
Most
get.
temperature,
basically,
exactly.
yeah.
So it was cool. It wasn't, whatever, 85 degrees at, middle of the day temperature. But they weren't brewing beers to be ice cold and come right out of the freezer at, 33 degrees. So it makes sense. That, you bring more.
I do all the blending at room temperature as well.
Okay.
So when these are blends of several barrels, 9, 10, 12, 15 different barrels, and we're kind of blending them together, blending the different flavor components as well. I do all that at room temperature. So basically how it's intended from the maker's standpoint is more towards room temperature. So
You're the maker.
and
Capital T, capital M. I didn't realize that it's you I've been talking to at night before bed.
You didn't know you met your maker, but
I should have
I
taken
met
the
my
blue
mate.
pill.
Exactly. No, it makes sense, right? If you want it, if that's the way to experience it, that's the way you want to make it.
Yeah.
You don't make it at cold temperature and then hope that,
Yeah.
at a warmer temperature, so
Right.
it's all going to be the same.
yeah, it says on the can even in best at 55 degrees
Yeah.
or whatever. So yeah, it always tastes a little better once you let it open up. And also, the beer does open up kind of like a wine.
Yep.
As it's reintroduced to the environment and the atmosphere, it's going to kind of, the carbonation starts to dissipate, and the flavors and the aroma start to kind of creep out of the beer. So
Okay.
yeah, even when you pour it into your glass, you'll notice from your first sip to your last sip, it's gonna go through a morph as far as the flavor profile. You might be like, oh, I get a ton of baker's chocolate, and I can taste the bourbon, and then at the end you're like, oh man, the maple syrup's really coming out now. So you're gonna go through a whole spectrum of taste as you enjoy it as well. So it's a unique and interesting product.
Very cool.
We'll do a mountain bike version. It'll just taste like dirt and sweat.
We'll have to do episode 3. Episode 3, we have to do a vertical of morning grind.
Live?
I'll get all 6 years.
Oh, wow.
We have to finish all
That'd be
6
dope. Yeah, I'd be
years.
on board for
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do
For
you,
sure.
Aaron? What do you like at OHSO? What do you drink at OHSO?
Oh, good question.
Or even
so-
just like in general, like what's your favorite beer?
I've never been to OHSO, actually. Tell me about it.
You told me the locations. Where
Writing it down.
Yeah.
I'll be there tomorrow. What do I like at OHSO? So your names will escape me. Every single lineup that you have. I tend to be, and that's not very original, but an IPA guy. I do like more complex. Something that is actually going to give me a flavor, something that's going to give me an adventure, I guess you could say, as you're going through it. And obviously your standard IPA is complex, doesn't necessarily have that barrel-aged adventure from start to finish, but we'll have something. It'll change over time if you let it sit there and let it get a little bit warmer and don't get it ice cold. I've experimented with some of the sours and things that get out a little bit more. Some are good, some are bad, and this is just in general speaking.
Sour's weird. Some people are like, no.
That's sort of the thing,
yeah.
right? Like they say, like 2 sips, either you're in or you're out.
That's the unfortunate thing about sour is it's such a different like pH and acidity that it takes your palate like several sips to adjust to that flavor profile.
Yep.
So the first sip is probably always going to like be off-putting to some degree because your
Sure.
tongue is just like in shock. It's like, especially if you're eating food or something, it's going to be nothing like that. So
Right.
it
Well,
takes
every taster is too.
like don't just sip it a couple times and give up. Like take 3 or 4 sips, like
Right.
let it kind of sit. Try again, because it does take your palate a little bit of time to adjust to those
your
flavors.
first sip, your palate is like, I don't know what's going on, but it's kind of cleansed into what it is that you're going to sample.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then by the next sip you're pulling out different levels of, notes of different, fruits or flavors or whatever. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I was gonna if you trace my my beer drinking history back to I was 6 and started. Kidding, mom and dad, stop listening now. No, so college I think is probably the time when most of us started experimenting a little bit more. Of course, had a couple of those macro lagers earlier than that, and I hated them from the minute I tasted them. I mean, I couldn't even finish it with most of the guys at a football game. But yeah, in college, we started playing around with like the Newcastles and Guinnesses of the world, and I loved that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of where I started with more of a heartier, complex beer than most of the other freshmen, who were still pounding the Rolling Rocks and stuff like that. And it's just kind of gone from there. I've kind of stayed on the darker side. Always willing to
Dark side of the forest. I like it.
Red lightsaber here.
Yeah,
Talk about nerds. And always, Bananarchy is an example. Always, was willing to sample something a little bit different, and whether you have 2 or 3 in a night or never try it again, it's it is what it is. But kind of stayed in that vein. And as IPAs became more popular in the 2000s and you could find them anywhere, I kind of felt like it was if I found a niche, West Coast versus New England, and you could get some really good ones. And then people started really trying different recipes with them and making them different, and then you got hazy ones, and you got this and that, and so it's a good field to be in because you can get a different type every time you go out to OHSO or to the grocery store if you want to pick something a little bit different. When you get something like a bright, it doesn't matter if it's a bright. To me, there's obviously some difference, but a light lager is going to be a light lager no matter who makes it, and there'll be I think a lot more subtle changes when you come to something a little bit darker in the IPA, that kind of venue.
No, for sure.
But these hard ciders are going down real easy too.
Yeah.
I've been sipping it because we're doing a recording here, and I don't need to start getting too sloppy.
Yeah.
But no, these are.
Oh, we're recording. I know we're recording. I thought it was practice.
Right. But no, these are. You said it earlier. The rise of the seltzers over the last half dozen years or so. Right.
Yeah.
I think most of us who pay any half attention to the alcohol industry probably looked at it and laughed. I mean, there's been stuff over the years like the wine coolers. Bartles and James had a good run in the 90s, and Zima came out in what late 90s.
Zima, dude. I don't know where Zima's at, dude. They need to be.
But you know, yeah, it's like these alternative to alcohols, not to alcohols, but to beers, you know, have come and gone, and so yeah, these seltzers came out, and it's like, you know, yep, it's gonna be fun, and then everyone's gonna turn away and go to their old stomping ground and whatnot, and then everybody's got one. I mean, if you go into you know, a Walmart or any grocery store, it's like there's a hard high C, there's hard Sunny Delight. I mean,
Delight,
right?
I know,
there's like there's things out there that you're like
Sonic has a hard.
yes.
Yeah.
I think even Mountain Dew. I think there's hard Mountain Dew out there, right?
Monster.
So, I mean, some of them were natural, like when Jack and Coke teamed up. It's like, oh, okay, well, you know, everybody drinks that anyway, so why don't we just make a? We can start, you know, reaping some of the rewards on that. That being the companies, but yeah, it's like everybody has their twist on it, and I mean, the name's great. Oh, so hard.
Yeah.
It's like perfect. Another perfect.
I don't get it.
But what he said, about a year and a half they've been out. I remember being in Gilbert with my wife, close to when it was being released. It was very soon after, if it's not like, you know, that weekend, that week kind of thing, because you still had like the tubs in the garden, in the patio, where you could, like, I think we were doing tasters at the night we were there.
Nice.
But we ended up going home.
That was like the rollout. Yeah.
It might have been the rollout. It might have been. It was very close, if not. Yeah.
We're just like, here's our new product.
Yeah, I think we tasted it. We tasted a few, but we ended up with a 6-pack or 2 to go home with of mix and match flavors that we really enjoyed. So, you know, yeah, they're obviously the seltzers are here to stay. Yeah.
Yeah. It used to be like when they're like in the beer scene, they'd be like the memeable, like like the guy who drinks seltzer beers, you know, and they'd be like some funny thing. But now it's just like that kind of chatter went away because the people making those memes are now drinking the seltzer beers.
I'll rat on all of my colleagues in the beer industry is when I set up for a beer fest, before the gates open, all this, every brewery is over at our tent trying to get a seltzer.
No kidding.
So don't make them think that they're purists in beer.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're all coming to have a seltzer. Yeah. But
no, I think for sure, and you know, not afraid to say it, there's a time and a place for them. They go down easy. They're, you know, similar to a Bright. I think it's this one, maybe not the lavender, but you know, they're a lawnmower type of beer. Yeah. You know, and on a hot day when you're out working in the backyard, you can just, you know, keep a couple of them on ice, and it's a really nice, refreshing, and easy way to quench your thirst.
Yeah. I like how they're not as temperature dependent as far as like enjoyability. Mm-hmm. Like I know we've talked a lot about letting beers warm up, but there's also a lot of beers that you don't want to let warm up, at least like too far. Like it's like, yeah, let the IPA warm up a little bit as you drink it, but you don't want to have a 70-degree IPA. But you can have a 70-degree seltzer, and honestly, it's not that bad. So if you're like in a situation where you can't keep it cold and you need to
like Country Thunder,
or like throw something in the back of your jersey pocket, or like throw something like in the bike bag that it doesn't need to be ice cold when you get to the top of that trailhead, seltzer's a good option because it's still going to be really enjoyable even if it's 60 degrees. So it's a good one to bring along.
Brody's doing more to bring it back to biking every time than I am, which I think is if there's someone who's going to bring up gravel riding or riding to the top of the summit, it's going to be Brody, not the race director over here.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked a little bit about it since we're on the seltzers. Give us a little behind the window, or behind the curtain rather. Seltzers, are you just taking soda water and throwing some vodka in it and calling it hard
Unfortunately not, because then it would be a RTD, or like a spirits based one, which is a whole different, in Arizona, a really different ball game, because the way things are taxed are kind of determined by where the alcohol is derived from. So if you're using vodka, it's taxed at a lot higher rate. So they tax by actual volume, not by proof gallons here in Arizona, which is some stuff that we don't need to get into. But you get taxed for 12 ounces of vodka soda the same as you 12 ounces of vodka. So it's just not as advantageous to use spirits here. So we actually use like a fermented sugar cane and do like an actual fermentation so that it's considered a beer by the TTB and all the federal government. So by legal definition, it's actually a beer. But it doesn't have any grain or anything like that in it. It's made from fermented sugarcane. It's brewed at a high gravity.
Does that mean it's gluten free?
It is gluten free. It's also vegan, but it's brewed at a high gravity so that it's a little more efficient for us. Made it at between 13 and 15% actually, and then we dilute it down with reverse osmosis water and flavor it with natural fruit. So it's another thing. It's not like these macro seltzers that are just loaded up with these chemical extracts and these unnatural ingredients. Everything's natural in this product, and it's real fruit and real ingredients. So that's something that we strive for, and across the whole spectrum at OHSO is to try to stay as true to natural as possible. But fruit it, proof it down to the 5%, and then carbonate it, can it, and drink it. So
very nice.
It's a little bit less complex of a process compared to a lot of the other stuff we've been talking about, but it's also a lot more pressure to make it very clean and very drinkable, and almost it's hard to make something taste like nothing when you're going through fermentation. There's a lot of components to fermentation that add a lot of flavor. And so keeping something that clean is actually an accomplishment in its own right. So having such a clean base that allows you to incorporate the fruits and make a really nice drinking seltzer it's a tough endeavor, but I think we do a really good job with these. And I would put them up against any seltzer on the market. It just
flavor wise, it's not even close.
Yeah, I think I prefer them to anyone that really comes around. And we submitted 3 to the only seltzer competition in the country, the U.S. Open of hard seltzers, and we won two top 3 medals. So
excellent.
It is renowned as a world-class seltzer in that right as well. But it's just a really cool local product that you can grab at OHSO, and it's also in distribution. So if you own a bar or restaurant, it's distributed through Hensley. Ask your local
if there's a bar or restaurant you go to and you're like, I want you to have this because I'll drink a lot.
Ask the bartender, ask the bar manager, and maybe they'll bring it in for you because it is available here. And
nice.
It's just kind of word of mouth so far, spreading around that it's out there to be bought. But we're super proud of it, and it's a fun one, and we all drink it, and so that's always a good sign if the guy making it likes to drink it. So that's kind of the rundown on it.
Very cool. Are the other beers? Not all of them, obviously. I'm sure some are a little with the distribution wise, but are they all go into your local bar and say, I want the Boom Dynamite? Can they all be brought in?
Boom Dynamite, yeah.
Good amount of the
portfolio that goes into distribution is extremely limited compared to the portfolio that we offer at our restaurants.
For sure.
Maybe it's maybe 5% of the brands that we make annually make it to distribution, just due to all the different things involved in getting it into distribution and getting it out. But right now for us, you can find all of our core lineup of seltzers. You can find Boone Dynamite, Popsicle, Blonde. You can get 89 Ale. You can get Hoppy.
But those are all big distribution. That if there's a local dive bar you go to all the time, you're like, dude, I need this beer.
Right.
Like, it's easily ordered. They can put it on, and if you're gonna show up, 4 or 5 out of 7 days, and have 1 or 2, any business owner's like, I want what people drink.
Yeah.
So they'll order it, they'll put it on, you come in and drink it. Obviously OHSO does okay, or we wouldn't be opening as many stores as we are. So
fair point.
Yeah, never be afraid to ask for something if your local neighborhood place doesn't have it. They're looking for input too. Being a bar manager is, you're making decisions, but a lot of those decisions are based off of what the people coming in there want. So if you're a big fan of something, and we're not just saying OHSO, anything, just let them know. Hey, it'd be awesome if you carried this. They hear it enough times, they'll probably carry it. So
give it a whirl.
We always like to encourage people to speak out, and sometimes it's on our behalf, and we love that too. So
draft too, or just cans?
All the ones I said are in both.
Okay.
All of our spirits are available in distribution through Hensley. So yeah, we probably have maybe 15 to 20 products.
SKUs,
Yeah, they call them SKUs.
Yep.
In distribution, so across our portfolio. But
Awesome. There you go. Spread the word, right?
yeah,
support local.
Yeah. So you've got a bit of a history in wine.
yeah.
Is wine the next step for OHSO? You've got the seltzer. You've got the distillery.
We legally
You're-
can't
Yeah, we're tapped out in Arizona. You can only be in
possess two of the three.
2 of the 3.
No kidding.
So yeah,
Okay.
alcohol is separated into basically if it's derived from fruit, if it's like a fermentation of barley or grain, or if it's distilled. So those are kind of the 3 different spectrums. And here the law is you can only possess production licenses for 2 of the 3.
Gotcha.
So another kind of fun fact is that cider falls into the wine category. So you'll never see OHSO make a cider either because it's a fermented fruit.
Yep.
It is technically under the wine category. So
Interesting.
if you go to a local cidery, they're actually technically holding a wine license to produce that.
It's
cider.
hard for them though because they're taxed different. They
Gotcha.
do a lot of things different, and it's not. Wine is what, like 14%. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing. What he was talking about, the can of alcohol. It's
Right.
It's taxed the same way. They're taxed the same way.
Right.
But-
There's a lot of weird laws, and that's why it's important to support your local breweries as well, because we all contribute to a guild that hires, people to go and speak on our behalf to make sure that these huge, mega corporations aren't coming in just railroading us by getting all these laws passed that prevent any type of growth or are extremely disadvantageous
We
to
protect
us.
small business
Because a lot of things, I think it's a little like overstated when you see a local brewery. It's tough to grind out a profit as a small company. So these laws are a big deal, and when you have a corporation with a multi-million-dollar legal budget in your state to go in there and pass a law that will screw over all these little brew pubs and smaller breweries, it's devastating. And then
Yep.
you see the effect of that a year or 2 down the line. All these places close, and then all of a sudden you're whitewashing the state for the diversity of what it can even offer. So there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, especially legally, that your support of local funds indirectly. So you going down to your local brewery, you buying their products on the shelf, you requesting at the local bar, it actually has a deeper impact than you may realize, because that trickle down money goes into the people that are going to fight for these companies to stay viable. So
I love it. Jeez.
Yeah.
When people say shop local.
Sorry, it's deep. Yeah.
No, when
It's
people
what we
say
go through, man.
when
It's
people
true,
say
though.
shop local, right? It's not just about the mom and pop store on the corner that's making rugs or something.
It's like
it's everything.
unbelievable the amount of money that stays in a local business pocket if you buy local.
Yeah, I've seen some calculators in the past here and there about like if you go to Walmart versus Cale's department store.
We're a big company, but we employ over 1,000 people.
No kidding.
So, and then those 1,000 people have families, and so
Sure.
we impact 10,000 plus people in this community by providing them with income and just stability and all the things. And so, like, for a locally owned company that hasn't sold out, hasn't gone corporate, hasn't maintained their kind of identity as a locally owned and operated and employing local people, it's pretty cool to see the impact of that. And somebody who's better at economics than me could really expand upon that impact, but it's deep and it means something. So
I love it. I think that's a great place to end. We've got we've run the gamut today, getting business done, talking about in-depth beer, stuff that most people may not know or have not just tried to look into. They just buy their can off the shelf that they like, and then we're getting a little love for the local community too, and letting you know why. Right? It's a little bit of education, I guess you could say. So we'll sign off with that, folks. Thanks for coming in and checking out part 2 with us. Maybe we'll have to do a part 3 one of these days as
Maybe.
well.
I think we should bring Jordan out first before we sign off.
Bring Jan.
Should we rock, paper, scissor him for who's cleaning up?
You say you want to scissor Jordan?
Rock, paper, or scissors.
Jordan, the producer extraordinaire, likes to stay behind the scenes, but he looks like he might actually
He's
sit
getting
down.
out of his throne. He's dusting up. There he is.
Hello.
I love it.
The only one who is not allowed to have a opinion about this because he's still not 21. But
did you learn a lot today?
Basically.
Yeah, basically. Okay.
He's going to be the educated beer fool in the
When he is
teenage.
21, he'll know his
He'll
stuff.
know what's up,
There we go.
I'll
There
take
we
his
go.
barrel age one, dude.
There you go.
What
Yep.
that takes? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be educating the bartenders when he walks in at 21 in one day.
Yeah. One day.
Anyway,
No.
21 and one day,
Oh,
as in
one
like
day.
when he
When did you turn 21?
3 years, 2 years.
he's got a little while to
Yeah,
go.
wow, yeah.
We'll have 8 or 10.
I'm counting all these beers
of the
before I
beer.
leave, just so you know. Yeah. No fuss. Yeah.
All right, join us Monday nights. We do the group rides at South Mountain, 6:30 p.m. every Monday. Prickly Pedals, our next race coming up. We might, if we work this out, you might win a day to brew at OHSO if you come in first. So there's a little incentive for some of you to get some good training in. Thanks again for turning in and turning out to listen to us again today. And like I said, maybe we'll have to come on bring you guys back in a little bit and do a part 3 and see what else is new. Thank you guys for supporting us in our beer garden at every race. It's been fantastic. Looking forward to 2024 and renewing that partnership as well going into it. Once again, thanks everyone. We'll sign off. See you next time.
Cheers.